All right, so I've got the sunshade here, and we're ready to cover this with our suede headliner material here. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we got to make sure that we lay the fabric going the right direction so that the nap folds the right direction, because especially on this sunshade, it's going to be right up against that headliner board that we just wrapped. And if we have the fabric flipped around, this piece is going to look like a completely different color than the headliner, and we don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an arrow facing towards the back of the car. So we have our handle here. We know that's for the front. So I'm just going to put an arrow with this piece of chalk going this direction. And then I've got our headliner material here, and I'm going to put an arrow facing the direction that the nap folds down. So you're going to have to, pay attention and look, but whichever direction where you can push the nap so that it lays down, that's the direction you want to put the arrow. So right now the nap, it's laying down going this direction. So I'm going to put some arrows on this piece of headliner here so that we know which direction we need to lay our pieces when we're gluing this up. This way we won't accidentally make any mistakes. All right, so that's looking good there. Now we can go ahead and start gluing this up. I'm just going to cut a section out. You also want to make sure that, we're nice and parallel too. If you get a little off like this, it can also change the color of how it looks. So I just want to make sure we're going to have enough, for the sun visors there. So that's looking good. All right, so before I start to put glue on this, I'm just going to steam out some of these wrinkles here, because I think when we were putting this on the headliner, this got a little bit wrinkled up. So all this stuff will come out no problem. We just need to fire up our steamer and steam these out. So I'm just going to remove some of this glue that I got on these slider pieces here. Probably should have taped them off, but I wasn't thinking about it when I started covering this piece. The glue remover that I use is called A&L Cosmoline Remover. It works really good. This is my favorite stuff to use for removing contact cement. All right, so I'm just going to pop this handle back in here. Now, one thing I want to mention, all the plastics on this car, I chose a color of suede that will closely match the plastic on this car, all the handles and everything that isn't getting wrapped is pretty close to the color that I'm using. It's not perfect, but I'm okay with it. It's really a pretty close match, but that's not always going to be possible for you. So what I recommend you use if you have to paint the plastic parts on your car is SEM has a really good line of plastic spray paint that works really, really well. I've used it multiple times and it's really great stuff. I'll put a link in the description below on where you guys can buy that stuff. So if you need to do that on your car, make sure you check that stuff out. All right, so I'm just gonna finish gluing down this piece right here and we'll be finished with this guy. All right, so I've got all the rest of the trim pieces here that we're going to be covering in the gray suede. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark on these which direction we need the suede to be running. So it's a good idea when you remove these from the car to mark which side of the car they go on so that you can easily remember which direction this the suede needs to be going. So this is the B-pillar panel, and this is the left side. So if this is on the left side, we want the suede to be going this direction. So I'm just going to mark on both sides on these ones. Actually, I'm going to do a with Sharpie on the back, because sometimes when you put the chalk mark on the face of this and then you spray the glue on and you can't see the chalk mark anymore. So it's nice if you can to put it on both sides. So this is left, we want it going this direction. I'm going to do the same thing to all these pieces here. So sometimes you kind of have to use your best judgment on which direction, you know, the suede should be running. This panel in the back here, the headliner, if you remember, it kind of comes down kind of like that. This piece sits kind of like this. So I'm thinking we probably want the suede to be running just about like this. Maybe even something like that. I'm going to go hold this up to that headliner and double check exactly how I think the nap should run on this. Okay, so for me it looks best if we just run it straight along with this line right here. So that's what I'm going to do. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is put some lines on this fabric here so that we can remember which direction the nap is running when we're looking at the fabric from the back. All right, now what we can do is start laying out all our pieces. We'll cut out the fabric. We just want to make sure that we do the best job we can to efficiently fit all the pieces in here, because we want to make sure that we don't accidentally run out of material or end up in a situation where we can't fit one of the pieces with the nap running the direction that we want it to. Okay, so this looks pretty good right here. I'm going to start cutting out all of our pieces. Sometimes I cut my pieces of fabric a little bit too big probably, but just because I'm paranoid about when you go to glue the fabric on, it's always better to have too much than too little and get into a situation where maybe you didn't line it up quite perfect, and now you're trying to you know, pull or stretch something so you can make it right to the edge. You know, you just want to, it's better to just add a little bit if you have the fabric, and I do here, so that's what I'm doing. All right, now we can glue these up. Oh, I love steam. Steam is the magic. Whenever I'm wrapping pieces, I always like to put a little bit of stretch on the fabric just to make all of the wrinkles come out. I just got a little bit of glue on this here, so I'm gonna clean this off really quick. Just wipe that off with a little cleaner, and it is good to go. All right, just a few more pieces left. All right, so on this piece, since we're gluing over top of the old fabric, I'm gonna do 2 coats of glue. Just because this fabric is so porous, I wanna make sure that the glue is gonna absorb into this fabric, and then we're gonna come back, do a 2nd coat, so that we'll make sure that it'll really have something to grab onto. And then we'll come back and go ahead and put the suede on this. Alright, so we're almost finished and ready to start installing everything in the car, but first we need to recover our sun visors. Now I'm just going to run through this really quick and give you guys a general idea on how it's done, but if you want to learn exactly how to do this step by step in your car, make sure you check out the other video I did just on these sun visors where I go through it in depth so you guys can see how it's done. Alright, let's get this finished up. All right, let's start putting this all back together. Okay, and when you go to reinstall the sunshade, all you have to do is just turn it and twist it in at an angle and it goes right in. Okay, when you go to reinstall the bolts on the sunroof glass, what you're going to want to do is leave them loose because this glass actually has an adjustment on it and we need to make sure that the glass fits nice and flat to the roof. So we're gonna have to shim this, and I'm gonna use these cardboard shims to help us hold this glass where we want so that it will hold this straight for us while we're tightening up the bolts. One other thing I want to mention is if you guys have a newer car and you unplug anything with an airbag or your battery dies or something, it's most likely going to throw a bunch of error codes, which is what happened to me because there's the airbags on the seats that we unplugged. It's got an airbag fault, and you can see here how it's saying some stuff about the airbag here on the dash as well. Now, this is something, if you want, you can take into your local shop and have them clear the codes. I think also if you go to like a local auto parts store, a lot of them will do it for you too. But you can also buy a tool for it. You need to make sure if you buy a code reader that it reads what's called SRS, and that stands for Supplemental Restraint System Codes. You can get them from like Harbor Freight and stuff for like 180 bucks, which isn't too bad. I'll put a link in the description below. But anyways, it just plugs in to your OBD connection down there, and then it's really easy. You just go through the directions on the machine and you can clear the codes out, no problem. If it's something you're going to be doing fairly often, it's a good tool to have around, so I suggest buying one of those. So I'm going to clear these out really quick and then we're going to be all finished. Alright, once you have all your parts installed back in the car, what you can do if you want, you can take a shoe cleaning brush. This is made out of horsehair. It's really soft and it's going to be really gentle on the suede here, but what we can do is we can take our brush and we can brush the nap all in one direction. Now this is an option if you want to do this. If you like the look of it all brushed back in one direction, or if you like the nap just with the way it is right now, that's completely up to you guys. I'm going to do that really quick. This brush, it's also going to help to brush out any dust and any little particles or anything that got left into the fabric, and you can actually use this to kind of clean your suede every once in a while when it gets dirty. So this is just going to give it kind of a nice uniform look. One other thing too, if you ever need to clean your suede, what I recommend using is a microfiber towel with just some warm water. That's what I recommend you use just to start off when you're just doing any regular general cleaning. You don't really typically need a cleaner to clean this stuff if it's just got some dirt on it. I mean, obviously if you have a stain or something, you can use another, sort of upholstery cleaner. But just for general maintenance on this stuff, a microfiber towel, just kind of get it wet with some warm water, wring it out so that it's just kind of damp, and wipe it down. You'd be amazed how much dirt you'll pull out of all the fibers and everything, all the dust and whatnot that gets caught inside here. It works really well doing it that way, and it doesn't damage anything. It's completely safe to use a damp microfiber towel on this suede. And you can just get these brushes at any store that sells supplies for cleaning shoes. This is just a brush that's used for polishing shoes. I like it because it's nice and big. They sell ones that are a lot smaller, and if you're using a small one, you're going to be here, forever in a day trying to do this. This nice big one here works really well because you can get everything pretty quick. All right, so that's looking pretty good there. I like that. All right, guys, now that we got everything installed back in the car, this is looking really good, and I can't tell you how excited I am. I personally really love suede, especially in cars like this. Now, I understand that, suede is kind of, some people like it and some people don't. And if you guys don't like it, don't worry. You can do this with any type of headliner material that you want. And it's the same process. So get out there, do this in your car, and make it how you want it. Now, the only thing that's left to do is get out there, drive this, and enjoy it. So I'll see you guys on the road. All right, if you like that video and you want to see another one, make sure you click to your right here. And don't forget about all the courses we have available at the Lucky Needle. Click here in the corner to get more information. And don't forget to subscribe right here.